been outside my comfort zone. And when you're making sales calls, it might be a repetitive action that you're doing day after day, but it still might be outside your comfort zone for a while. So just because you have to do something daily doesn't mean it has to be a different thing daily. Just continuing to press forward towards your goal or your dream.
Well, here's the thing about it, and this is the reason that it took me a second to think about something that was quote unquote outside of my comfort zone, is because the comfort zone expands so slowly, sometimes you don't even think about it. It would have been maybe scary for me to do it 2 years ago, certainly 10 or 15 years ago. Now I don't think about it that much because it's been such a slow, gradual process. And I think that's how it should work. It should be normal to you, where you start something and then you realize, ooh, wait a minute, now it's time for me to ratchet it up just a little bit. That's how this works, and that's how you expand your comfort zone to where it gets to the point where not much phases you.
And I'm getting you outside your comfort zone with feeding you vegetables for dinner. That's what you're working on now.
Yeah. I was eating a taco last night that Laurel made, and I took a bite into it, and I was like, are there mushrooms in this taco? I never heard of a mushroom taco. She's slipping them in on me.
I snuck vegetables into your taco. I really did. I put beans, and then I put a layer of vegetables, and then I put the rice on top so that you wouldn't see the vegetables. Yeah.
Pretty sneaky. And that's actually, what a great segue to the next thing on the list. Be an observer. You have to observe, and all this stuff goes together. And you kind of caught me, and I'm realizing now that I'm maybe not working outside of my comfort zone like I need to. That's because I'm not observing. But if you are an observer, you can see what's working. You can see what's not working. You can go from your comfort zone to what we call the learning zone, just a little bit outside of your comfort zone. And then there's the fear and panic zone. And that's when you've gone too far. That's when you're really, really going to fail. And that's when you need to take it back into the learning zone.
Exactly. I think of it as kind of concentric circles. I think that's what you're talking about. And when you're in your comfort zone and you go directly towards your panic zone, which is the outermost circle, that's scary. And a lot of people that do that just go right back to their comfort zone and just stay there because it was scary out in the panic zone. But when you take that small step out into the learning zone, which is that next circle out, that middle circle, then it feels a little more comfortable, and you just start to take those daily steps, and then eventually your comfort zone will expand to include the panic zone. But you don't want to go from the comfort zone to the panic zone. That's just a little scary. You want to stay in that learning zone.
Well, that's why those guys are playing the rejection therapy game. They're trying to build that muscle up. We've all seen people, I think dating is such a great analogy for this, to get out of your comfort zone. We've seen those people that might ask out a woman once and then never, ever ask out a woman again, ever. That's because they went into the panic zone and they retreat right back into their comfort zone. Now, what the rejection therapy game allows them to do is to get on that edge. They're playing the edge of comfort and learning. It doesn't get too outside of their comfort zone where they can't handle it, and they actually make a game of it. They're trying to get rejected, so that makes it a little bit easier to stomach.
Being an observer, I think, is helpful because you want to observe what you're doing, when you're doing it. And David, you said, maybe I'm not pressing myself enough to be out of my comfort zone, which I disagree because I live with you day to day and think you do. But at the same time, you want to be an observer of that. Are you in your learning zone right now? Or are you in your comfort zone? Are you in your panic zone? Where are you? Be an observer of that.
I think you also have to own your situation. You have to take responsibility for everything. And that's been a recurring theme here on Red Podcast. It doesn't mean something bad that happens to you is your fault necessarily, but it is your responsibility to get it going in the way that you want it to be.
And in this case, no one is going to push you out of your comfort zone. No one is going to stand behind you and push you towards your dream or your goal that's outside of your comfort zone. It's just not going to happen. So you have to own it. You have to take responsibility for who you are and what you want. Now, I wake up every day and I say, this is who I am. This is what I want. This is who I am. This is what I want. And you have to own it. You have to take responsibility and go after what you want. Don't expect anyone to do it for you.
Finally, you have to be committed to the process, and you got to trust the process. As we've discussed here, and as I found out myself, not knowing that I'm not reaching out of my comfort zone as much as I could. It's a long, slow process. Sometimes this stuff will sneak up on you when you have actually done something right with it. Unfortunately, if you don't do what we're talking about, and we're going to recap this here in just a second, if you don't do these things, comfort is going to just pile on those layers upon layers upon layers on top of you, and that sneaks up on you too. It's like one day you're thin and you're running around the track doing that 4-minute mile. Next thing you know, you can barely get up a flight of stairs. It is very, very sneaky. That's why we do this daily. Don't let it sneak up on you.
I like it. Well, let me sum it up here. What we talked about today is 7 different ways to break out of your comfort zone or expand your comfort zone, as I said. Number 1, work yourself up. Start where you are. Start working upward, outward. Number 2, start something. Action cures fear. So get started on something, anything to get going. Number 3, do it daily. Small actions count in any area of your life, not just business. Number 4, be willing to fail. That's just a part of getting out of your comfort zone. Number 5, be an observer. Get in your learning zone, not in your panic zone, and start building from there. Number 6, own it. Take responsibility. No one's going to push you out of your comfort zone, so you have to do it yourself. And number 7, be committed to it and trust the process.
This is the Red Podcast. We are available at redpodcast.com. We are open to topic suggestions, and if you have one, you can reach us through the website. You can also get me on Twitter directly at David Hooper. Laurel is available at Laurel Staples. Happy to answer any questions you have about this or any of our other episodes. Happy to take topic suggestions for future episodes. If you like the podcast, please, please, please leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you've heard about it. And please tell a friend. We appreciate you helping us get the word out. Laurel, thank you so much.
Thanks, David. Of course, there's a lot more information on what we do and who we are at redpodcast.com. So you can check us out there. And we also have links to Twitter and everywhere that you can subscribe to the podcast as well.
So thank you so much for listening. We'll see you on the next episode of the Red Podcast.
You've been listening to Red Podcast, Real Entrepreneur Development. Subscribe today using iTunes, Stitcher, or via RSS at redpodcast.com.